class, I've gone and made myself a third PDO exception, and it's one of those that I quite often see with students, and I'd like to show you beforehand. So testing again, post, and I get my trusted fatal error. It's once again an uncaught PDO exception. It has to do with SQL, and the error message is invalid parameter number. Number of bound variables does not match number of tokens in post table class line 27. Let's see. So the exception is thrown in my post table class line 27. That's when I try to execute my data with my PDO statement that I get the exception. I'm suspecting there must be a problem in my SQL statement, and to find out, I uncomment my trusted little code block here for debugging, for looking at the SQL statement actually used by PHP. So I'm going to replace question marks incrementally with the values used by PHP. So let's take a look. Insert into post user ID, content values 13, question mark. That's a strange value. And that's really what this will look like. The problem is invalid parameter number. So the problem is that I'm trying to execute data, which is an array with one item, but I've got two question marks. The number of items in my data array must exactly match the number of unnamed placeholders in my SQL statement here. When you see it like that, it's easy to see that the error is $post. You need to add $post to the data array, so you've got two items to match two question marks. It's something to remember when you come across the invalid parameter number. Number of bound variables does not match number of tokens. That's what that means. Either you've got too many items in your array, or you've got too many question marks. So give that a go. Come to think of it, this little block of code is quite handy for debugging my SQL, and I don't want to be typing it all the time. So what I'm going to do is to cut it out of this method here. Actually, I've already done it. I've gone and created a private function debug that takes two parameters, an SQL string and a data array, and then it will iterate. It'll loop through every item in the data array and replace question marks in the SQL with a value from the data array. So I'm simply building a method for debugging, and whenever I come across a problem, I don't have to write that code again. I can simply call this debug and pass along the SQL with the problem and the data. So if I reintroduce the problem here in my insert method to debug it, I call this debug function with the SQL used and the data used. And I get to see the SQL query, so I can copy and paste it into phpMyAdmin to go looking for SQL errors. So by adding this method to your post table, I would actually also add it to my user table. Those two classes that deal with SQL statements, that deal with SQL, that deal with tables in MySQL. Those two classes, I'd add a a private debug function like this to make your debugging life easier. Well, use it if you like.